good enough for everybody online? Hopefully. I guess we can zoom it in. Hey, Bob, is that text okay?
A little small for us.
All right.
It's so small.
Okay. I'll increase the size and then I'll decrease or increase it as needed. Okay, so this is my talk. There was a question in the Discord that was basically what code should Rust write? And this is my talk to what code should AI write? And this is kind of a talk trying to address that. Also, if I start to speak too quickly or there needs to be clarifications, just wave a hand or something. And if you have questions to go deeper on any topic, I prefer if we save those to the end because I get really easily distracted. So yeah, this is AI should write Rust and only Rust. And okay, maybe TypeScript too. I love types, and I'm Patrick, or P-Gray on GitHub, everywhere. So the talk overview is I'm going to go through who am I, then I'm going to talk about FilePhoto, which was my first large or serious project in Rust. Then I'm going to talk about AI-aided work. And then I'm going to try and reach some conclusion of what code humans versus AI should write. So first, who am I? I'm Patrick, or P-Gray on GitHub, SourceHut, Coburg, and my site, pgray.dev. If you email any address at pgray.dev, I will get your email. I love Linux. My background's in Bash, Go, Python systems. Not that much Python, to be honest. And like SRE, DevOps, etc. I love Rust because it when Go came out, that blew my mind that channels were just so easy to use and it was kind of C-like and simple and understandable. And then Rust came out and I was like, wait, I can safely approach really cool, deep features of a language. I feel like I learn when I write Rust. If I write Go anymore, I feel like it's like I need to get something done and out. I'm a staff engineer at baselayer.com. We are kind of like a financial technology company. We de-risk loans, signups. We do know your business and know your customer type stuff, if you know what that is. We're hiring in San Francisco, New York, and remote. I'm remote. We are completely a Python shop on GCP Cloud Run. We're open to Rust when the time or the problem is right. And we use Pydantic and Astral tools like UV and TY, which are written in Rust. So we are getting to experience the joy of Rust, even though we're mainly in Python. Weird thing, while I was writing the talk and I volunteered, I realized I've been a member of SRUG since 2018, back when it was randomly in person in places in Seattle. I really love the Discord and the videos, and I want to say thank you to Rory and Brad, who are on the meetup, or it might be Ben and Carl, but basically everybody that runs it, thank you so much. So what is FilePhoto? FilePhoto was supposed to be a Google/Apple Photos for RAW files for cameras. Does everybody know what a RAW file is? Does anybody not know? So a RAW file.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
A RAW file from a camera is it's basically the sensor data. So imagine that piece of silicon. It's got all these little sights on it that measure RGB values, or in the case of a monochromatic camera, not RGB, but basically just a light value. It's trying to measure the amount of light on the sensor. And so a RAW photo is literally serializing all of that data as quickly as possible into a file, and they're huge. They're not rendered to a JPEG. They actually, a crazy thing about RAW photos is that they have embedded JPEGs in them. So you have a photo inside of a photo, because that's how they do thumbnails. If you're looking at a RAW image, it's like, does everybody implement RAW specs? No, but everybody implements a way to index into a RAW to find that JPEG. So the goal of FilePhoto was Apple Photos, Google Photos, which they do support RAWs, but I wanted to do it almost at cost. I love the Amazon value of the customer comes first, or is super important. And the fact that you can decrease S3 costs, like not year over year, but like over time, and you can feed that to the customer as like savings. I'm like, that is one of the most ethical services I can think of, is just like, please make everything cheap for the customer. So really, I wanted to build this for photographers and technologists that build custom NAS backups and setups. A lot of photographers out there, they don't have amazing backup workflows. Some photographers only have a hard disk drive that has all their photos on it, and if that thing dropped, they just wouldn't have their photos anymore. That scares me. I don't want that to happen to anybody. So, the goals of File Photo are to be cheap, fast, and good. You know, if you've ever seen the triangle of like choose two, yeah, I want the whole triangle. So I wanted it to be pay as you go. I wanted it to be Rust with tons of caching and local capable features. I was using Axum, Rust QLite, Tokyo, Cerde, and the AWS Rust SDK, or there might have been like a community one when I started. And then also I'm using async NATS. NATS is just like a really cool, if you know what etcd or RabbitMQ, it's kind of this like weird amalgamation of those that's written in Go. And I don't want it to be good, but the tough part about making it good as a DevOps, backend, etc. person is that I didn't have that much experience in the front end. And I was writing it in Svelte. So I was learning Svelte while trying to do all this stuff, and that was tough. I wasn't doing anything with AI at this point. So the limitation there, it's a microsas/indie hacker project. I wasn't working anywhere at the time. It was just me, like I said, I was self-teaching Svelte. And I had some friends who helped out, so shout out to my buddy Joe W., who was, he helped me out with the API and the tooling at first. And then my buddy Peter E. actually got me started on an Android app in like my mono repo, and I was like, I'm just going to do it all at once. But then they had work stuff, and I was kind of on my own solo working on this stuff. I was learning a lot about Rust on the fly. I was learning about async lifetimes, API and backend, like database development. I hadn't done like a ton of migrations and stuff like that on DBs in the past. I mostly helped debug things when they were broken in production, and somehow most of the places I've worked didn't have that happen around migrations. So yeah, most of my experience was with key value stores like async NATS. And one really weird, cool thing that I was trying to do was in Tokyo streaming, if you're handling a request like a raw photo coming through your API, the premature optimizer in me, I wanted to slice the header of all the metadata of the raw photo into like a look-aside buffer and process that into a JSON blob as I was streaming this photo up to the back end. And so I was using external, whatever, inspect, and basically inspecting the buffer as it was coming through and trying to do cool like look-aside buffer stuff. And the other limitation was that Claude, I had a Claude AI login, but they didn't have Claude Code. There was no automation really going on for me. I was kind of copy pasting compiler errors and different stuff into GPT and Claude and stuff like that when I got stuck. It's a startup microsas type thing. So what did I do? Well, I kind of fell back to what I knew, which was Go. And in order to go faster, I invented this thing called Thumbhack. And Thumbhack was a way to quickly hack thumbnails into place. It's written in Go, basically calling exec on a command line tool. It generates the JPEG for each raw. It generates a raw JSON blob for the parts, and then it rewrites, parses that raw JSON blob, picks a subset of those tags, like aperture, ISO, or shutter speed, and then it pushes them into the key value store for display. That my goal was, if I stuck with that and then launched, I was basically going to do this thing with Unix domain sockets, where I was going to mount Unix domain sockets into a virtual machine to run the exec. Basically, if somebody like somehow created this way to hack one of the CLI tools, because it was kind of easy to figure out which CLI tools I was using, I wanted that to only happen inside a VM that had no networking. Okay, so what's out there? What CLI tools was I using? Well, I was using Exib2, which is maintained by Robin Mills, or he was, and he retired. He was a software engineer at Adobe Systems, and you can run Exib2 on a raw file, and it generates a text file with all of your values like date, ISO, aperture, if you, in your camera, if you put in your author name, it'll actually write your author name into your raw photos. The other thing that's out there is EXIF Tool, which is super popular as well. It's written in Perl. The author is Phil Harvey, who is retired, and he's a software engineer in particle astrophysics. Awesome tool. And then there's also DC Raw, which was written by Dave Coffin, and the last version of that was published in 2018. It was written in C, and you can basically stream the contents of a raw photo into DC Raw, and then you can extract the JPEG into another file. That's succeeded by LibRaw, but I haven't had any experience with LibRaw yet. I'm just glad to know it's there. So what happened? Well, I burnt out. That's too much stuff. There's microservices, there's Rust, kids, life, etc. And I found some contract work doing like DevOps, SRE, cost optimization, etc. The last thing I did was I built billing, and I was kind of building this like token system for tracking the amount of data for a given customer that's in Backblaze or S3, and then per day, and then if that changes, kind of like at the end of the month, count up all the tokens, generate a billable amount. And I was kind of giving, I was rounding down to the nearest gigabyte so that people you get a free gigabyte of storage because it costs half a cent. Later, I joined Baselayer. I didn't really get back to the project. And at Baselayer, we've been doing Pydantic, UV, I did a Pio 3, if people know about it. It's basically, cool. So you can do Rust stuff and then have really great wrappers to Python. I found a 3 both in execution speed and in memory footprint. There were 3 to 5x gains to be had just by using Pio 3 for like the same thing I was doing. It was kind of insane. So that was FP. Okay, cool. Now we're on the AI aided work. This is like the meat of the talk. Are we doing okay on time? I think, maybe. So I'm going to talk about tooling, IDEs, bots, Cloud Code, side projects, TempDNS, Vibes.bingo, and this thing called MadStack that I created, which doesn't have any traction, but it's fun. And then lastly, like the really thing that I'm really proud of, and actually already reached out to Robin, who maintains Exif 2 about, is FBXif, which is going to be open source soon. Okay, this is the big slide, yeah. Okay, so these are all the tools that I've tried. I tried Cursor with with the Composer 1 model. We have a subscription to this through work. It does completions. You can prompt it. It's got plan mode. It's pretty solid. Cursor is a good way it's based upon VS Code. It has Rust support. It has tons of language support. Z.dev is written in Rust, and it's really fast. Like, if you love Vim, check out Z.dev because it's basically like, I don't know, it's just that fast and great. And it automatically finds like plugins and setup stuff for you. It's got completions, it's got prompts. It relies on Claude Code or other, you can set it up with Cursor Agent, whatever. And then there's Claude Code. Claude Code is the thing I'm using right now, and I haven't found anything quite as helpful as it. Specifically, I'm using plan mode, and then I mentioned in our Discord, there's a Ralph plugin, which is basically, it's this loop around your prompts, and if your stuff exits, it keeps going. And there's like a certain amount of tries. Does anybody need more context around these tools before I go deeper?
Maybe Ralph.
Ralph?
Yeah.
Oh, Ralph is great. It's literally almost like while sleep 2, do Claude Code prompt, and then it'll like exit once it's done. Once it thinks it's done doing work, and then it's a built-in plugin that you can. So if you have Claude Code installed, you can do like plugin install Ralph, but it's pretty much doing the same thing. And the idea is just that it, like, you tell it like, hey, build this completely until it's done. And then the tendency is that Claude or other agents will like stop early, and they're like, do you really want me to keep going? And Ralph is pretty much just like automating, telling it to keep going. The funny thing, Claude Code named it Ralph Wiggum, the plugin, Ralph Wiggum, and then they like renamed it because they're like, oh, the Simpsons might get on us about the trademark. So that's fun. The other cool one out there is OpenCode. A lot of folks on Twitter, I'm not going to call it the new name, a lot of folks on Twitter, new Twitter, they love OpenCode. OpenCode's really cool. The TUI is like vastly superior to Claude Code, but it doesn't have plan mode. And there's a PR out, I think, to implement plan mode in OpenCode, which is cool. Plan mode, just so anybody doesn't know, plan mode is you prompt your agent with what you want to do, and then it asks you clarifying questions. And it's like, do you want me to write a full test suite? Do you want me to do this, that? Like, it's really great. Especially if you're doing like quote unquote vibe coding, which is a lot less, you're not really checking the code as much, you're kind of just trusting it, which with Rust is actually really good because the compiler spits out stuff if it's bad. The last one I tried recently was Anti-Gravity, which is Google's thing. They have Gemini built in. Gemini literally like condescended to me. I was like, can you mimic this? And it's like, I will try to mimic this. And I'm like, it like literally quoted mimicking back at me because it knew what I meant, but it made me feel bad. So, and the last thing, the thing that I highly recommend, no matter where you work, where you are, the GitHub PR review bots, specifically CursorBot, is insanely good. Like, we write in Python, it's catching stuff that we're doing in async context. It's catching stuff that we're like types that are wrong, that like we didn't quite specify enough. And that one, like literally, at first we like ignored it a little bit, and then now almost every single person has just at work has like decided, oh, I'm just going to address this. Like, this is not something I'm going to ignore anymore. We pretty much fix every single thing CursorBot identifies in PRs. My experience with the Claude PR bot, I don't know if it needs more configuration or anything, but like it told me that my architectural dreams were horrible. So it's like, you need to seriously refactor, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, that's not the kind of feedback I'm looking for right now, Claude. So, what did I do? Why am I excited about this stuff? Well, so at work I write Python, and at home I only write Rust. I don't write Go, I don't do anything else. If there's not a Rust library for it, I'm just gonna have Claude do it now. That's how productive I am with Claude. I realize it's like not as maintainable, or there's a lot more to maintain, but seriously, I don't want to write anything but Rust anymore because it's just so safe and fast and lovely. So, TempDNS. I posted this in the Discord. It's basically the architecture of TempDNS. It's like a temporary DNS service, and it's a periodic curl, effectively, or HTTP request to the Algorand API. Algorand is for anybody that doesn't know, it's like a green blockchain. They buy carbon credits to offset the electricity costs. They're not proof of work or proof of they're not proof of work, so they're not burning tons of energy or whatever. They're proof of stake / they have, anyway, there's a white paper, it exists. That's not important. The TempDNS looks for transactions to my wallet, and if you send me one algo with a JSON blob in there, I will generate a DNS record on tempdns.org. So you can have a website online, or say you have a server out there, you just want a DNS record. I was kind of inspired by freedns.afraid.org. Don't pay me, they give free DNS away. I was just kind of like, is there anybody who does have algo that would pay for a DNS record? Or, and some of the great feedback I got in our Discord was, oh, I would buy a subdomain maybe. So I think if I revisit that, I'll implement that, but people don't really seem to want to buy things with crypto. They seem to want to hold it and, speculate. Anyway, the next thing that we built was Vibes.bingo. Carla, my wife, built this almost entirely with Claude Code web. You can actually have a little chat session going, and it'll spin up a virtual machine in the back end, in their back end, and it'll commit to the repo. And so because my background's DevOps, SRE, all that, I implemented the DigitalOcean app GitHub sync service or whatever. So basically Carla will ask Claude to go build something, it'll push it to a branch, test will pass, we'll merge it, DigitalOcean picks that up, builds it, and deploys it. And it's a cute little site where you can create bingo cards. She created her 2026 bingo card, and she's had a couple different things happen on it. Yeah. Oh, crazy thing that we learned while we were doing that. So when we kind of told Claude to do it, it immediately, or not immediately, it started out with Terra templates. Do people know what Terra templates are? No, T-E-R-A, Terra. It's basically Jinja. If you know what Jinja 2 is, or Jinja is, it's a template language for writing HTML, plain text, whatever. And so Terra, what's interesting is it's a Rust library that re-implements Jinja. And so what's happening is that Terra templates are at runtime parsed and run. And that was causing issues because basically Claude would make changes and the templates were out of whack, and then we would go and panic at runtime because the templates were broken. So instead what we did is we switched to Mod. Mod is an HTML macro library that allows you to basically write a macro, and at compile time it figures out, is this HTML valid? If you're writing HTML in Rust, Mod is amazing. And that created my idea for MadStack. And MadStack is a silly little named new stack or framework, which is supposed to be Claude/AI friendly. It's Mod, which is the HTML macro, Axum, which is the REST kind of framework for Tokyo, and Diesel. And Diesel lets you talk to MySQL, Postgres, SQLite, and it's not really a framework because it's really just my favorite 3 libraries. But it's really good. The repo has a demo app in it, which is like an Echo template demo app thing. I'm thinking about turning it into if people actually do like it or get inspired by it, maybe it could be a template to create a new Rust binary or something like that. In the README for it, I was kind of like trying to be, I don't know, come up with like ways of like, why is this good? Why is this interesting? And really, I don't think there's a need for a framework in Rust. Rocket kind of has one going on, and it's okay. In my opinion, I really like Axum, Mod, Diesel, and I think that if you're going to make things easy by using these AI tools, you might as well do it the hard way with Rust. And that's like, you don't really need a framework if all the heavy lifting is going to be done by Claude or OpenCode or whoever. So that brings me to FPExif. So what is file photo or FPExif? So really, I kind of did all this AI work with little web binaries and stuff like that, and it really kind of sparked off in my mind that Robin Mills of Exif2 wrote. He actually had a book that I read when I read parts of his book, not the whole thing, but he basically lays out the whole specification for all the different raw formats for photos. And in literally like the first 3 paragraphs of his book, he says, the tool set used in software engineering evolves with time. C++ has been around for 35 years, and while many complain about it, I expect it will outlive most of us. Nonetheless, languages which are less vulnerable to security issues may lead the project to a rewrite in a new language such as Rust. I hope this book provides the necessary understanding of metadata to support such an undertaking. So Robin wrote that, and it always stuck with me, and I basically posed the question to myself, well, if I've got Exif2 codebase, and I've got Exif2 submodules, and I also saw at one point there's this raw samples.ch website out there, which gives you 7 gigabytes of raw photos from different camera types. That was provided by Jacob Rohrbach. And basically, the goal was to provide raw samples for people building libraries to build good libraries that parse photos. I kind of put this all together, and I'm like, well, I did all this silly stuff with TempDNS, MadStack. Like, what if I did something substantial? And the thing that I was doing is I wanted to have Claude. Basically, I've only been using Claude. I've tried other stuff, but I've been having Claude work on building an open source library for Exadata. So how did I do it? Well, the first thing I did is I had Claude build some Exif image tooling. Basically, there are tests. There's one called MFR test, which is manufacturer test. So for a given manufacturer, Claude will build some code or build some new features, and then it takes my raw data, which I have on a folder at the root of my little mini server, and it runs the code base against those files for that given manufacturer. Then it runs EXIFTool and EXIF2 against those files, generates their output, and then I diff the tags. And so I'm not writing any code right now. I'm literally just having Claude write Rust, pure safe Rust. There's no unsafe in my code base either. And basically I've completely valid input data. I have the best in class output data according to open source. And kind of in between, I'm trying to kind of like squeeze the walls in and bring it tighter and tighter so that Claude can make progress and really build my code base. So I'm adding more formats. One thing I did is I literally, so at first it was just a library, and then I was like, wait a second, why don't I just build the exact CLI behavior that EXIFTool has? So like there's EXIFTool-J, which generates JSON output for a file. Why don't I just have fpexif space EXIFTool-J? And I just have the same exact behavior just under a verb inside the binary. So that's kind of where I started. Where am I at right now? So right now, the EXIFTool comparison looks like this. So 3F, I don't know what 3FR is, but like CR2 is canon. The match rate for tags right now, I'm at 77% on Canon. CRW is also another format by Canon. I'm only at 15% there. I think, NEF is Nikon cameras. I'm at 83% there. Where else? Oh, my favorite. So I own like 3 or 4 Fujifilm cameras. I've got 90% coverage on Fujifilm for EXIFTool comparison. For EXIF2, it's different. I only EXIF2. I think there's a way to get it to output JSON, but right now I have it parsing the text files, and so I'm pretty much this is where I'm at. That's the goal of these stuff. So my overall match rate across the code base is 52.1% for tags right now. And I'm just kind of having it crank away. And the point that I've gotten to, which is, I can't think of, I'm sure maybe I'll think of something to improve, but as of like today/yesterday, this is where I'm at. So I have a mini server in my office. It's like a Lenovo M75, like kind of like front desk type machine. And I have these 3 commands that I built for Claude, which are basically prompts. There's restart auto, which is, it tells Claude to save where we're at to a text file. If I need to like restart the server or do something. There's go on, which is basically, I just restarted Claude, so read that text file and go on. And then there's also tag next, which is run tests and then determine what images we should address next. Another amazing thing that I found out is that raw samples, which I talked about just now, that's a 7 gigabyte data download. That was succeeded by raw.pixels.us, which is, I downloaded that. It's a Git LFS checkout. It's 56 gigabytes of data, and their goal was not to have one of every file format. Their goal is to have one file from every single camera ever made. So now I have 56 gigabytes of test data. Raw.pixels.us is used by Darktable, RawSpeed, and RawTherapy, which are all open source photo stuff. And what I'm trying to figure out basically is like, can I have Rust macros that do most of this? Like the less data that we output while we're doing tests and all that, the less tokens we use inside Claude, inside AI, the more efficient the whole thing gets, and the more reliable the progress is as I'm prompting Claude to do stuff. Oh, yeah, and I already mentioned MFR tests. Okay, cool. So only 4 slides left. So this is the next thing is the demo. So I wrote this whole thing in Rust, or I didn't write it, Claude wrote it. I'm not going to take credit. But it's in Rust. And at one point I was like, you know, it'd be even more efficient than like pushing a raw photo through an API and doing stuff on the fly. What if I could just push it to the client? What if the client can do the work of grabbing this metadata for me? And so what I did is I have this. This is a static file. I'm just hosting it on a Python server. And so what you can do right now is you can actually, these are RIF files, which are Fujifilm files. There's a little WASM binary in the web page, and I hit enter. It loads up all those files, and it pulls the JPEG out. So, yeah, this is the JSON. These are like the raw, this side are the raw values, and it kind of just works. And I'm just blown away when I literally prompt, I'm like, could we just do WASM like with this code base? And Claude was like, okay, run the script. And I was just blown away. It worked almost on the first try. That was without the JPEG, and then I asked it to do JPEG. I haven't tested JPEGs on everything. My CI doesn't do that just yet, but I'm hoping to add that. So yeah, I'm just like, I never would have been able to do any of this. Like, I'm DevOps, SRE, that stuff. Like, I write 10 lines of code that are really important, hopefully, and I'm just not this capable, and I've just been blown away by what I've been able to do by asking this little LLM. So yeah, the future of FPExif is going to be fully open source. I want to give it away. It would not exist if not for ExifTool, or Exif2 and ExifTool, and DC Raw. What else? So the conclusion, AI should write Rust and only Rust because in 1959, Volvo invented the seatbelt. And Rust to me is seatbelts for software development. And AI is self-driving cars, which are inherently fallible. And you don't take your seatbelt off just because your car is self-driving. And you wouldn't, even if it was perfectly self-driving. You would have your seatbelt on, and you would have your self-driving car. So lastly, happy birthday, Robin. He's turning 75 on Sunday. I would also like to point out that does everybody know about embarrassingly parallel problems? So there's like sets of problems out there that are just so easy to break up into, you know, multiple threads, multiple cores, multiple servers, multiple whatever. That's awesome. I'm glad that we have that. I'm glad that we have multiple cores. But I think that there are going to be a set of problems. I don't think that AI should be writing every single line of code. I don't think that, I'm not like an AI maximalist or anything like that. But I think there are like embarrassingly AI solvable problems. And I think that like Robin's problem of like, I've got the C++ code base that does really well, and we fully tested, and we put all this time into developing and designing. I think that I'm going to be able, hopefully, to, you know, caveat that like I don't think the code is that pretty or anything right now, but via this process, I think I'll be able to get it into a place where I get really, really high tag coverage due to my high existing input data, high existing output data, and my existing implementations. And I think I'll be able to get it to a point where like it's then refactorable into something that you would actually enjoy reading too. So other things I've learned is that local dev, or even like hosted dev, but like full dev environment on a single machine is really good. Claude can reach out to GitHub and do all these things for you, but like being able to run, build tools and run commands and everything like that in a really hot loop locally and customize those commands to have less output is really, really important. What's next? Oh, token budget. So token budget, like basically Claude has way more, Claude can like keep a lot of stuff in its head about what it's working on, way more than I can at least. And but it does run out sometimes, and then it kind of like barfs, and it puts that all into a file or in like, and then it re-ingests it. So you know, really technical terms. So custom tests with smaller output, which is basically what I had my code base create. My output for my test is literally file, tag, broken. Like it's for each broken tag, and like I only address certain. So different output modes for tests might actually be a thing. You might like want like in regular CI the human to be able to parse that stuff, and then in local CI or regular CI to just be like very AI friendly and just tell you exactly like which line or which file or whatever, and then the AI can go and figure out that stuff for you. Has everybody heard of shift left? So shift left, as far as I understand it, is this idea that you can move, if you can move bugs and output from production left in your process to the start of your process, either at design time, first code time, whatever, the more you can move onto a developer's laptop, the better. Rust does this like really well, but really it's not just Rust. It's applicable for Python, for any language like TypeScript, whatever. Types are so good for this because your types tell you somewhat quickly like this is wrong. And if you can get that wrong signal into the AI standard in, I had like mouth, hands, whatever it is, I'm not doing that. Into the standard in of the AI can solve that issue for you. Oh, yeah, and then the last thing is like, with all this AI stuff, you're trading speed for sure. Like you're gonna go fast, but you still have to be on the hook for your own changes. And like in something like FBXIF, there's no real danger out there until I get users or until people start integrating it. But at least they'll know like, oh, I saw this issue in production or in my app, and like they can go into my CI and go, oh, that tag's just not implemented yet. Maybe I can contribute back a quick whatever PR. But yeah, that's it. That's my whole talk. Yeah.
Did you think about giving Claude some of the C code just so it could see what was being done?
So yeah, maybe I didn't mention this. So
Questions for the folks online with the microphone?
yeah, so the question was, did I think about giving Claude the C code? So I have Git submodules in the repo that have checkouts of ExifTool and ExifTwo, and I don't have DC raw. So literally I have in my Claude MD or in the Markdown files that tell Claude where to look for things, it generated paths for each individual raw image format. So it has a map of the existing implementations for those image formats. So when it goes to work on stuff, it knows exactly which files to like look at and like what to reference. Even though I have that though, I have to ask it sometimes like, did you look at the code that we have? And it's like, oh, I know exactly how to do it now.
Just sharing on this topic, I had an interesting interaction with AI recently where I asked it to summarize these changes, and it took the names of the files to make a summary, did not even read what's in the file.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I shook my head.
So you showed different match rates for different files. Have you figured out why there's low match rates in some cases?
So the question is, have I figured out why there are low match rates in certain cases for certain files? So some tags are missing, and then other tags are mismatched. And what's really interesting is that like a lot of the mismatches are that I have it to a floating point precision that is different than ExifTool. And so ExifTool will like be 0.0, and mine will be like 0.0003. And they just round it off, I guess what they think are insignificant digits. Another thing is that in photography, sometimes you'll represent like a third of a second as 1/3 rather than 0.3332. And so ExifTool converts that properly into the fraction rather than the decimal.
So it's more of like an almost equal kind of situation.
Yeah,
You kind of just need to adjust the match, how you're measuring the match.
Yeah, and also I have extra tags, like Claude apparently implemented tags that like ExifTool doesn't have. But when I looked further at those, apparently it's like discovering a tag that's like a binary array, and it's just shoving that in as like a single tag, whereas ExifTool and ExifTwo are parsing that and then further generating more tags right now. Yeah.
So what would be like the path to get the match rate to be 100%?
So the path so I've been trying out Ralph for that, and basically, Ralph, I think the other night got one or two of the image formats 10 to 15% further.
Can you repeat the question?
Oh, sorry, the question was, sorry, what was the question?
How to get to 100%.
What are the next, I'm channeling, people yelling at me at work today. What are the next steps to get to 100%?
Okay, so what are the next steps to get to 100%? So, it's a little bit of Ralph, and like letting it just, like Claude Code just churn away on this thing. Surprisingly, I think I got so token efficient that like I ran Ralph for like 2 or 3 days and I didn't hit any limits. I'm on the $100 plan, and there are people online who are like running through $100 plans in a day or two, and I'm like, I let this thing just churn. I don't know if it's like the Rust builds are slowing it down, or like, I don't know what's going on. It's like, but it's somewhat like, I really think there's something to be figured out around like token efficiency for these things. And oh, the other thing, I mentioned macros. I only thought of macros when I was at like 30%. And then I asked Claude, I'm like, Claude, like, I don't know how to write macros, but like, you might know how to write a macro that helps me, right? And that was because there was indeterminism. It kept, because I was trying to support exif_tool and exif2 at the same time, it kept rewriting exif_tool or exif2 output for one for the other, like kind of flip-flopping back and forth. So I basically had to generate a macro, and then literally yesterday I was like, are there more macros that we can write? And it generated 5 more macros. And so I need to go back and refactor a bunch of the code base with these new macros I have. But yeah, if it can be turned into a macro, like the macro definition is just like so much more efficient for these tags than implementing individual functions and matches and all that stuff. Anybody else?
Have you found like there's issues that you haven't been able to solve with Claude, and you've had to like open up a dumb text editor and use your brain? And like when you do that, assuming you have, maybe you haven't, but I have at work. How do you not feel like a dev that like just got thrown on to Go project from like a senior person that just took like a month vacation and said good luck?
So yeah, that's a really good question. The question was, is there anything that Claude hasn't been able to do, and that I had to jump in and kind of felt out of whack because it's progressed so much. So yes, there has been. The thing that like, so I didn't write the GitHub actions. I had Claude write the GitHub actions for this. And then at one point I was like, hey, can you like just change it a little bit like this? And it just did something completely different. And I was like, okay, like it hasn't been Rust basically. Rust, because of all the feedback that you get from compilation and like, and the tests that are written, like I haven't had to do anything with the Rust code, but like anything that's like less deterministic than the Rust code is like a little bit wacky. And so I had to hop in and I modified it, and then it was a Python file that was generating a PR comment. And that's where I got those big tables of coverage. Like those are posted on every PR run to the PR to tell me like if things are improving or not. And I had to rewrite it into Node or into JavaScript, and then it's running Deno to generate that. And then I ended up having to modify JavaScript. And one thing I've really found nice about when I'm working with Claude on stuff that I have to jump in and modify is what I'll often do is I'll figure out where I need to modify something, and then I'll write a to-do comment near that part of the code base. And then I basically say, hey Claude, I just wrote this, let's go fix that to-do in this file. And then it pretty much is like a 1 or 2 shot to fix that to-do comment, and then that kind of gets me on to the next thing. Yeah.
Hey, so you mentioned like the compiler feedback. Do you actually have to do a full compile, or can you like hook up Claude to Rust Analyzer so it kind of like gets that feedback early without a full compilation run?
So I think I saw there's a
Can you repeat the question?
sorry, the question was can you hook up Claude to like Rust Analyzer? Do you have to do like a full compile in order to test stuff? So I don't have Claude configured with anything other than I have like the Ralph plugin. There is I think an officially supported Rust plugin now for like Rust CP server or Rust Analyzer.
Language server.
Yeah, Rust language server. So I haven't used it. I haven't needed to, and I think the partial compilation has gotten good enough where I'm not making deep changes in the code base. I'm kind of making this one single file for this one single manufacturer change. So literally it's just that file that ends up being recompiled. So it's been pretty quick. Anybody else? Oh.
So what's like a one sentence summary of, I guess you know, there's a title of the talk. Like, how would you apply this? I think there's like an underlying principle to what you're saying that might apply to other Rust things.
So like if you're at work, the question was, is there a one line, I guess like a moral?
Yeah.
And I think it's really that shift left kind of move bugs or tests or validation into Claude's context or into open code or whatever your, Gemini, whoever. If you can move your issues into the context where that agent can iterate on it, you can write whatever code you want. If you're in Python, if you're in JavaScript, I think there's a node run test or stuff like that. If you can move that context into your AI, you can write most of the code yourself and then just have it take you to the last 10% or whatever that you need. But yeah. Do we have time for more or?
Maybe we should go
Or a break.
for a break.
Okay, cool.
Be a 10-minute break.
If anybody wants to chat, I'll be here.
Okay.
I've got 6:55, so probably we'll start the next talk at 7:05. Does that sound good to folks? Time for the bathroom. Folks online, we'll see you in a minute. We're going to talk about async Rust. Red mean I'm not talking to yours. Hi, you're Patrick, right?
Yeah. Jack, nice to meet you.
People are complaining about this microphone.